I'm going live here on Tuesday, September 15th at 11:30 a.m. I'm going to be talking about the new moon in Virgo in Kanya Rashi. Kanya is the name for young girl, and Virgo is the Rashi, the sign of the young girl. And so we're going to be talking about that 30-day month that revolves around the sun and moon coming together in Virgo and starting that cycle for 2020. And I recently, I thought that this was going to be Sharad Navratri, which usually happens on the new moon in Virgo, but actually, as I research, it seems it's going to be celebrated on the next new moon in Virgo in 30 days. So I apologize for making that mistake in recent videos. So we're going to celebrate Sharad Navratri in a month in October. I believe it's October 17th, and then Diwali, which is the next new moon, will be in the next month. So they're coming a little late this year because of the phenomena of having the new moons coinciding with like less than 1 degree. So we have this new moon in Virgo on September 17th is here, and then 30 days from now on the next new moon, the moon is still going to be in Virgo again. So we have two new moons in the same calendar, or in the same Rashi, and so that skews the solar months. I'm sorry, the soli lunar months a little bit, and so this is it's also going to be happening in the nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni, and Uttara Phalguni is the nakshatra of where Lord Shiva marries Parvati. So in Purva Phalguni, this is where Shiva and Parvati are in courtship with each other. That's where Shiva and Parvati are dating and getting to know each other. In Purva Phalguni, which is in Leo, and then in Uttara Phalguni is where they get hitched. It's where they get married. And so this nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni is also important because it's where we take that passion and that fire of Leo and we create a structure like a marriage or a business, or where we organize the business or we organize the kingdom, organize the power that we have into something that is practical and sensible and useful. And these are very important keywords for Virgo, for the Virgo principle. Again, we're coming out of the Leo principle, and if I go back a couple days, this chart here, as you see, this is for the 17th at 3:58 a.m., and I have it drawn up because we have, again, the moon is at 50 seconds of arc, and the sun is at 52 seconds of arc. So this is the exact new moon. But if we go back a couple days, which is where we are now, now we're on the 15th, and we're at about 11:30 a.m. on the Navamsha. 11:30 a.m. I'm going forth from the Navamshas. Okay, so we're about right here. You can see that the sun right now is in Leo. It's in Magha Nakshatra. I'm sorry, the sun, is in Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra in Leo. That's where the sun is right now. So as you can see, Uttara Phalguni is the nakshatra between Leo and Virgo. Of course, those who watch my channel knows that I make sure to restate and reiterate that Vedic astrology is purely sidereal, or what they call near ayana chakra, which means the chakra or the circle without the ayana, without the solstice. So the Indians knew forever, back into the midst of time, they were never confused, that there were two circles that we're measuring. One circle is connected to the sky and the planets moving around the sky that doesn't move. That's called Nirayana chakra. It doesn't move. Just like the sky doesn't move. The other one is called the Sayana chakra, which is the wheel with the ayana or with the solstice portion added. That was related to the calendar because that one is moving. And in fact, they even measured the one that was moving, the Sayana chakra, with the Nirayana chakra, with the one that wasn't moving. That's how they could tell when the solstices and equinoxes were happening, what age we were in. This is why we have things like Age of Aquarius. That's what Age of Aquarius is. It's not the age of tropical Aquarius. It's the age of sidereal Aquarius, because we're measuring the precession of the equinoxes, or the ayana, which are solstices, with the nirayana, or the chakra that's not moving. So the Indians, of course, were never confused about this, and they pinned everything to the actual sky. The nirayana chakra, or the circle without the ayana, without the seasons, basically, doesn't move. So that's what that's how you should be measuring the objects moving through the sky, is with the thing that's not moving. It's actually just very simple. Once you understand the concept, it's not hard to understand at all. It makes perfect sense. And so, again, of course, then that was pinned to the nakshatras, because the nakshatras are the most foundational portion of that unmoving sky. Is the nakshatras. So they say the sky begins with Ashwini nakshatra and ends in Revati. And then the Rashis are aligned. Then you put Aries also aligned with Ashwini, and then everything lines up. So again, very clear. And when you do that, then by the time you get to this portion of the sky, you have Leo and Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. Just automatically lined up. Again, I'm saying this intentionally because if you're using tropical zodiac, the sun is already 18 degrees, 20 degrees of Virgo in the sky. Right? It's not in sidereal, it's at this portion of the sky that's not moving, 29:13, which is also where we have Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. And then you see how the nakshatras bridge the Rashis. They maintain the flow of energy from one Rashi to the next. So the flow of energy from Leo to Virgo is seen by Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. It's where we take that power and passion of Leo, in fact from Purva Phalguni, and then we organize it. We set up agreements and contracts and structures, which is Virgo, to harness that power. Or like we take that power of love and attraction and beauty, which is Purva Phalguni, and we organize it into something like a marriage in Uttara Phalguni. This is what this nakshatra is about. And this is where we're going to be having the new moon, okay? This new moon on the 15th. So again, it's that, on the 17th. It's that point between Leo and Virgo. Let me just go forward again here. So we have that new moon here, and again, the last new moon we had was in Leo. This is how the cycles work. And so I want to bring this up here because this is what we're doing, and this is why I was tripped up. And Mohita Modgil is pointing this out. She said right after our ancestral worship, which ends on the day of the new moon, we usually start the goddess worship, but this is really unique. Yes, this is why I was tripped up. And what she's saying is that usually we start the Shard Navratri at this time because it's after the Pitru Paksha, which is the ancestral worship for the last 2 weeks. So the last 2 weeks is supposed to be or it has been the worship of our ancestors, where you do things like Tarpanam and other rituals to honor the dead, your ancestors. And again, we can go back and look at this because the last new moon was also actually in Magha Nakshatra, which is ruled by the Pitris, the divine ancestors. This whole section of the sky, this whole part of Leo is tied to this whole section of the sky, and Leo itself is tied to the ancestors, the Pitris. That's the first part of Leo. And this is why when we have the new moon, as the moon starts waning, the waning moon in the month of Simha, or the month of Leo, that waning moon is the time to honor the ancestors. So as the moon is waning in this last, what's called Krishna Paksha, or the last dark phase of the moon, that's actually called Pitru Paksha, which is where we worship the ancestors. And then the next new moon, which is the one we're having now, this new moon is usually when Shard Navratri begins, after Pitru Paksha. So thank you, Mohita, for bringing this up. And that's important. And again, that's why this is such an anomaly, because I'm not used to having this not be the start of Navratri. And this is usually the start of Navratri. And so because we're having these 2 new moons this year, it's getting disrupted by a month. So I guess we can just keep a combination of our ancestors in our heart and the Divine Mother as we go through this intercalary month, with, where we would normally start the Navratri, but instead we'll delay that for a month and then do the Shard Navratri next month, and then the Diwali the next month. So this is why this is unusual. And I had thought even a couple days ago, I just recently did a video with 3 of my friends, astrologers, and I thought that we were starting Diwali the next month as well, but that Diwali would start at the end of Virgo, but no, I got it wrong. So apparently that's the tradition, which makes sense, but it's also sort of tricky. But anyway, this is how the sky works. And this is why you always got to check things. And if you make a mistake, you say, oops, I got that wrong. This is also important for teachers when they make mistakes to say, oops, I made a mistake, and correct the mistake, or say why they said what they did. So this is why, and because Mohita is bringing it out, I thought I would explain why it got hung up. But I appreciate that. So again, where we're at now, and the reason this is an important time here, it's very important to understand the connection here, though, between the sky, the Rashis, and the Nakshatras. And again, there's so much, frankly, just wrong information floating about Rashis and Nakshatras, especially with the zodiac themes. This is these things are totally connected, and they've never been disconnected. And you see, particularly in these Nakshatras that transition between Rashis, you can see it very clearly. And again, it's important at times like this because we have the sun at this very early degree of Virgo. And so again, and we also have the sun at a very late degree of Virgo when the next new moon happens. Let me just go forward and show you that. So the next new moon, look, you can see it right here, is going to happen. Oops, day. Back week. The next new moon is going to happen see, here is the day. It's going to be on the 16th in the US, the 17th in India. You see, this is the next new moon. Sun and moon then come together at 29 degrees of Virgo, and this is when we're going to have the Shara Navratri, right? And then Diwali the next month. But what happens is that when we have the sun, or when we have planets in these really early degrees of rashis, usually it's the nakshatra energy that is like a bridge between the previous nakshatra and the one that we have now, and the current one. And so in this case, it's also the same thing. There's also 3 points where we don't have any nakshatra bridging, which is called Gandanta, where there's a hard stop between the Rashi and the nakshatra, which is also difficult. And again, these points are always mentioned in the texts. But here, this energy of Uttara Phalguni is very important because that's sort of the consistent energy flowing through this new moon in Virgo. Because on this day of the new moon, the sun has just changed signs. The sun has just left Leo and just entered Virgo. So that energy of Virgo is still kind of unstable a little bit. It's still kind of in transition. And this quality is being held together, though, by those, these two qualities of Leo and Virgo are being shown by Uttara Phalguni and this connection to power of Leo and organization, which is Virgo. So again, you want to see what the two signs really have in common. Look at that bridging nakshatra. And so, Virgo or Kanya is literally the Rashi or the sign of the young girl. It literally means young girl, and it's actually like a young, what we would call like virgin. I mean, the word virgin comes from Virgo, the English word. And it shows the innocence and the purity of heart of the young girl. And again, it's not as if once young girls start to, actually it's even premenstrual. It's not that once they start menstruating they become unclean or anything like that. It just means, it just shows a purity of heart. It's said that if you want to really see the goddess revealed in its most pure form, you could look at a young girl. And they even do festivals in India on the nights of the Divine Mother festival called the Kanya Kumari Puja. Kanya is young girl, and so is Kumari is young girl. And so Kanya Kumari is one of the most powerful forces of the Divine Mother energy. And again, this is why we have Shara Navratri in this Rashi. And this is one of the things that many people don't understand unless they understand the astrology behind it. Is that if you don't understand astrology, then you're like, oh, we do Kanya Kumari Puja. Oh, okay, yeah, young girl. Oh, little girls. Oh, isn't that cute? Well, it's not just cute. It's actually, it's that the essence of the thing itself, of the energy of the Divine Mother, is shown most palpably in a young girl. They embody the purity of heart. And it said, like, if you worship the Divine Mother in the form of the young girl, it's the most purest expression. And so I talk about this because that's the nature of Virgo, is this purity. And you can see this in young girls, in little girls, with their, how even kind of sort of mystical they are with their, they have this kind of, they embody they can sort of embody like the wildness of a boy, but yet the maturity even of an older woman, where their energy is very dialed into nature and their heart is very pure and open in this way. And so it's a really beautiful symbol, especially, you know, coming after Leo, which is like the king. Then you have the young girl. And so when you take that symbol forward, you have this very detailed, structured, proper, pure kind of motivation. And again, this is why, you know, people who have a lot of planets in Virgo, you know, they can have this kind of very sort of prim and proper way about doing things. It's not full of a lot of desire, like desires are lessened. In fact, it's the sign where Venus is in its debilitated sign here. And again, it's because Venus is very much about worldly desire and happiness on that level, and Virgo is much more about discernment, discrimination, accuracy, correctness, being correct. And again, what's called saucha, or purity, in yogic texts is very important. You know, saucha is a quality of purification, where you know, we recognize all of the impurities and all of the cleanliness, or how important cleanliness is to life, and how we need to make sure that things have a purity about them. And of course, Virgo, it's actually ruled by the moon. By Mercury, and it's very much about a purity of thought and ideas. And so, what Virgo does is it organizes things in the best way possible, where we organize our world and our life in the best way possible to build that kingdom that I talked about. And again, as an adult, this is how we can approach that symbol. Because we're talking about a little girl, but it comes after Leo. So again, these rashis have an essence of something. They don't always seem to make a lot of sense. Like, why does a king why does a lion come after a crab? Cancer is a crab. Why is a lion the next symbol? And why is a young girl the next symbol? They don't seem to have this random quality. It's trying to capture an essence of how the energy moves from one to the next. This is why. And by the way, I should have mentioned this, but I have a group of classes that, in keeping with Virgo and accuracy and understanding things, because again, this is one of the things that Virgo is very much about. It's ruled by Mercury, and it's very much about understanding the structure of life and how things work. And if you go to that link, you see it's going at the bottom, VedicaStrologyCertification.com. If you go there, if you click that link, you can get hours of training and see if certification is for you, if getting certified is maybe even something for you. As you can see, I have these videos here that there's actually 6 videos. That's not getting bigger. But, and it's literally 4.5 hours of videos. And it talks about all the ancient astronomy texts, the astrology text, the principles and frameworks, talks about the yogas and methodologies and all different ways. It takes you all the way from the beginning to the end of how to literally read a Vedic astrology chart. If you take the principles that are part of this free course, again, it's free training and free course where you can really get out of the astrology junk food habit, I call it, where you're just kind of digest, or you're just snacking on videos. That's what I call it, snacking, and not really learning anything. You're not really going very deep. By the latest YouTube genius, and we live in a snacking culture with astrology junk food replacing authentic truth. I know, I'm so mean. The age of misinformation. It's not just the age of information, it's the age of misinformation. You need a system, not more data. Otherwise, you're just stacking complexity on a shaky ground. Don't trust me. Good, but verify for yourself. You don't have to believe me. These are free classes. Look, people really loved them. So you should check it out. These are free classes. So you just go to that website, and then when you give your name and an email address here, oops, get that out of there. When you give your name and email address, you wind up going right to the first. You wind up going right to the first class immediately. And so again, it's So you go to the first class right away. So check that out. It's definitely a great way to learn. And again, the Virgo cycle is really good for that, because Virgo is where, as it relates to the young girl, notice how, young girls are, again, it's very proper, and it's all those details. I think of it being like when I watch young girls playing, like with friends of mine who have young girls, and just observing over the course of my life. I think of like playing with like, dolls, or like a dollhouse, or with, dressing them up and making them all proper. And then they, you see young girls playing, and they're like learning how to, like, have a tea party or something. I know this is antiquated, but it's the same sort of concept of, okay, now you get this and you get this, and here's your little cup, and now they go here, and it's kind of like organizing this sort of like little perfect world. And Virgo has that quality of wanting to, of organizing, excuse me, and arranging the tangible, practical world in the best and the most efficient and the most organized and the most pure way. Again, it's called Saucha, which is purity. One second. And so this is what we're really looking for when we get to know, when we're looking to learn astrology, and we're looking to ascend. These Vedic teachings, like the ones I give for free in that 4.5 hours, really start with this organized structure of the universe. It really starts with the principles. The planets aren't just, my Jupiter is here, and my this is that, and we turn everything into some personal story because of our ego. Because we have an ego, and everything is about, well, my this, and I'm that, and I'm this, me that. Again, I get it. That's where we all start. But that's also why we suffer. We even take something like astrology, which is a completely transpersonal, cosmic exploration, and turn it into me, my astrology, my thing, me. When you study it properly, correctly, you're studying you, if you want to keep making it about you, as a divine being, as the cosmic essence, which is actually what you truly are. You're not just your karma. And as much as people ask me about this all the time, can I transcend my karma? Yes, you can, quote, transcend your karma in that way. But then all they want to do is come back to their karma constantly. And I'll say, well, do you want to transcend it or not? The best way to transcend the karma first is to understand what the heck it is. what karma is. Not you and your karma. Your karma is like your ego. And then people want to just learn more and more about their karma or their ego, instead of learn to transcend it, which is to learn that you are not just an ego formed of karma and attached to that story. And the best way to do that is to actually learn astrology, actually learn it. Learn what all this is. And as you learn what all of it is, and you study it, you're studying your higher self. So the best way to transcend the karma is to learn about your higher self. And transcend that attachment, if that makes sense. And so, again, this is why people study. And I'm talking about this in the Virgo context because Virgo is all those little details that are organized in the proper way. You know, consciousness and life on Earth is very organized. Consciousness is organized. There's an architecture of the soul. It's not just some, I don't know, somehow things are, it's just energy. Yeah, it's energy, but we know what the energy is. Just like we know what energy is now, even just in general, as science. It's not just some bewildering thing that we channel. Somehow I channel it sometime. Look, all that happens regardless, but we know what it is now. And when you study, you engineer your success. You can engineer your success if you understand what this stuff is. If not, you're just walking around confused and bewildered and waiting for someone like me, like an astrologer, to tell you what's going to happen. You don't have to wait for an astrologer to tell you what's going to happen. You can learn it and then see it yourself. And you're supposed to know it. Again, I'm talking about all this because in the Virgo cycle, these are the kinds of things that are going to be important. Just like in the last month's cycle about Leo. Go watch the cycle I did on Leo. It was all about your power. I talked about power the whole time. Your individuality and your power and your highest wisdom. That's what I was talking about then, because that was going to be the most important thing for a month, is what your power really is. Well, now it's organizing that and understanding how that power really works and how that energy really works. It's not just somehow happening, okay? It's very specific. It's very specific details that are organized in a very specific and practical way. And I will just venture to say, or say with total certainty, unless and until you understand that, you're going to be lost. You're not going to know who you are or why you're here or why any of this is here. Now, astrology is not the only way to do it, but it's the only way to understand that. You can understand, you can come to understanding in many other ways. Through yoga, through other kinds of practices, you'll just get an innate understanding of things and all like that. But you're not going to understand the architecture of the cosmos and the soul and all that unless you study Sankhya philosophy deeply, and particularly astrology, because that's the one that teaches that, right? So again, I'm not saying this just because of the courses. I'm saying this is the Virgo time. This is what Virgo is about, is organizing all of this in a sensible structure. And again, one of the reasons I'm even talking about studying astrology and whatnot at this time, or as a good thing, as a good expression of the Virgo energy, is because when we don't have something big to do with our mind, then the difficulty of Virgo comes out. And this is true with all the signs. Just like if we don't have something important to do with our mind, the problem of Leo comes out, which is dominating others, overpowering others. If we don't have a big purpose, then we wind up with a little purpose, and all that Leo energy, which is what we're coming from now, winds up just being power struggles with others and domination structures with other people because we don't know who we are. When we know who we are, that powerful quality of Leo emerges, which is about generosity and sharing that power. Same is true with Virgo. If you connect and you tap into the highest quality of Virgo, then you're literally organizing and you're finding the intelligent structure of the universe. In Western sciences, they call it intelligent design. Same thing as, it's like Sankhya philosophy. Intelligent design. If you're not tapping into something like that, then you're just taking the Virgo quality and using it to, what? Worry and obsess about all the details here on Earth. Obsessed with cleanliness, obsessed with every little detail. And this is why Virgo can be a difficult sign, because all that detailed nature can be very nitpicking, irritated because things aren't perfect. Virgo is trying to perfect things. Again, purify and protect and perfect things. But everything of this earth is imperfect. Try perfecting this earth. What winds up happening is you just wind up being irritated and frustrated and critical. And even it can even be like a sort of neurotic sign where there's like a obsessive compulsive disorders and other kinds of things because of that worry and stress of being so aware of all the details. And so that quality of Virgo is where Mercury is also exalted. Mercury is also exalted in Virgo. It's the ruler of Virgo, and it's exalted there because Virgo is also what's called a tamasic sign. It's a sign where there's worry. And that, that little bit of worry is actually good for Mercury, because Mercury is where we can maybe not take things seriously enough. So that importance and that hypervigilance to details and even a little bit of stress and worry about the details actually elevates Mercury energy, because Mercury is where we can just be playing around and not serious. But again, it can also make us hypervigilant and just stuck in the world of details and very self-critical, critical of ourselves, critical of others, because nothing is perfect in the world. And Virgo is trying to perfect things. The only thing we can perfect is our understanding. And it's a big thing. The greatness of Virgo is really looking for perfect understanding. How is it all organized? What is the intelligent design? What is the structure of all of this? And how does that lead to like everything flowing harmoniously? Like the young girl who just wants everybody to get along. I want everybody to get along. I want it all to be nice and proper and everyone to get along and everything to be okay. So this is this important quality of the next 30 days, is this perfection, trying to perfect things. And this nature of worrying about those details is the quality of Virgo that needs to be looked out for. Because the way to understand it is like this. Virgo is where we become aware of how important all the details are, especially the dangerous ones. But again, what we have with the gunas of the signs is it's a motivation. And with the tamasic signs, we understand that there's danger, there's a dangerous potential. And so we become vigilant and aware. Because once we know that that some details are so dangerous that they might kill us, once we know that there are some details that are really dangerous, some details are just fun, some are this, some are that, but some are really dangerous, especially the dangerous part. then we might just be focused all the time and trying to avoid the danger. And this is what Virgo needs to be careful of. And I'm not just saying Virgos, I'm saying all of us. The next 30 days or so, we're going through this cycle. And again, that seriousness is good because we need to be serious. We often don't take life seriously enough. Like I'm saying here, all great spiritual teachers, they all say they all say a lot of things that are the same, but one of the things they all say, which refers to this seriousness thing, is that you have a lot less time than you think you have. Which means we waste time. We waste so much time. We get all this time and we waste it because we're lazy, because we want to have fun. We have a lot less time than we think. So we're supposed to take life seriously. But again, what Virgo can do is take things of the world too seriously. Every worldly detail so seriously. And scrub and turn the light switch off 15 times or some kind of obsessive OCD thing. Scrub the same portion of the counter over and over again, spraying disinfectant on something 15 times. People with Virgo are probably, jumping out of their skin with COVID, or, oh my God, you mean there's something that I don't even know who has it or who might not have it. Virgo would be the classic, like, oh my God, I'm terrified. Who knows, That's the kind of thing that would drive people with a lot of Virgo it can really play to the difficult quality of Virgo because, well, what do? I can't even disinfect it. I'll wear a mask, I'll wear this, I'll wear that, I'll do everything because not only are there details out there, but I can't do anything to purify them. I'm not sure who has it or whatever. So with Virgo, we have to be careful not to get carried away with the negative part. And this is what the gunas do. They show a motivation. Like the other Mercury sign is Gemini, which is very playful with all the details, but they can be too playful. They can just want to play. Virgo is where there's a focus on details, but we take them seriously. And again, this is why one of the best things to do with your mind is study astrology. Just in general, but particularly like Virgo times. Very, very much. Because your mind and your intellect and the buddhi wants to understand how things work. But it needs to be elevated rather than pulled down. And when it's pulled down, especially in Virgo, it's pulled down into all these details, and then we're worrying and obsessing about details that we can't control. When you push the details up, it's just a wonder. It's a marvel. You marvel at all the details, and you realize you have no control ultimately, and then you just surrender to the beauty of the universe. And you realize, I don't have control over this. I could never have control over this because it's just this beautiful, intelligent design that's holding me in grace. And that's what the universe is. Again, remember, this is where we celebrate Sharad Navratri. This is where we do it. And even look at what we do when we celebrate Sharad Navratri. We do these specific like pujas every day. We do, again, pujas and worship and ceremonies and mantras, and all of these things are there are a lot of details here. We don't do that all the time. I mean, we sort of do, but on Navratri, Sharad Navratri, it's very, very specific things. It's not just one day we do this. No, it's like 9 days of, we say, one of the ways is 3 nights for Durga, 3 nights for Lakshmi, 3 nights for Saraswati, and then Vijaya Lakshmi, and so, I'm sorry, Vijaya Dashami, excuse me. So it's very specific ritual, and we'll do it on the next new moon. But it's very specific. And again, this is one of the great things if someone has a lot of Virgo in their chart, is rituals and specific things to do, because all of that detail is very uplifting for Virgo, because Virgo's like, I got a bunch of details, yay, give me more details. But they're the right ones, they're the proper ones, where I can do the accurate, proper, correct thing. That makes the Virgo part of us, people who have a lot of Virgo in their chart, that makes that part of it, of their nature, very satisfied to say, it's organized in the perfect structure, at least as good as I can make it. And so again, this is what rituals are all about. If you ever watch Indian priests, their rituals are very precise. They're not just doing a bunch of stuff. They set everything in the right order. They do everything in the right way. They say this mantra, it's very specific. So I'm talking about this because that's what elevates Virgo energy. Instead of running into the ground with it, where you're just nitpicking everybody around you, nitpicking the world, getting, again, into negative details. For example, and I'm going to say it, all of this stuff, like all of the crazy conspiracy theories, all of the crazy, I got it all figured out, it's this, and all this out of control, trying to figure everything out on this level that people have no idea what they're doing and talking about, and making all these connections based on all this fear, all this fearful organizing of trying to organize the world in this fearful way, in this age of misinformation, really leads to a lot of the problems we see right now, particularly with all of the conspiratorial thinking. Again, this is very dysfunctional Mercury energy. We got the nodes in Gemini. I'm sorry, Rahu is in Gemini right now, leaving. But we have to be careful of that doubling and tripling down on it. I know what it's all about. It's this, because there's that, and there's that, and there's that, and there's that, and this person, and that, and that. See, so it's all this whole thing. Again, Virgo can have that quality of paranoia, especially because we are trying to figure it all out. So try to figure out something that's going to elevate your mind, not run you off the cliff of paranoia and illusion. And again, the nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni is where we take that power and organize it, that power of the kingdom of Leo, and organize it into the most effective agreements and contracts and structures. The deity in Uttara Phalguni is Aryaman, the god of contracts, but he's also usually paired with Mitra, who is the god of friendliness and friendship. The god of friendliness and friendship is necessary for a good agreement. And again, it's only a fool who thinks that a good agreement is one where you get all the benefit and the other person doesn't get any. That's not a good agreement, because that's going to make somebody angry and lead to a lawsuit or something. A good agreement is where it's a win-win, where everyone wins. Because then you can also keep the agreement going after the current contract. So think about the contracts that you have with people as well. Think about the agreements that you've set up, especially business agreements. And the contractual interests that you have with others, particularly around things of power. And how those things are unfolding in your life. And again, these things are happening. First of all, Mercury is there. He's exalted when this new moon happens. So this exalted Mercury here is also fantastic because the ruler is there. So he's bringing the wisdom now. Mercury is there now, also as I record this on the 15th. And the wisdom of Mercury is the wisdom of again, wanting to organize this information in the best way. That's what Mercury is really all about. It's about organizing this information in the best way, wanting to understand and comprehend how everything works, the intelligent structure. And then But not only that, we also have, again, all these planets in powerful rashis. Jupiter is in his own sign. Jupiter is also direct now. He's no longer retrograde. So Jupiter is now moving forward in Sagittarius. So again, this is also another reason, because both Jupiter and Mercury are related to studying astrology and practicing it and learning it well. Because again, Mercury is all those details, but we can just get stuck on all the details of the Earth. Jupiter is the bigger picture beyond just the Earth. What's the higher meaning behind things? So Jupiter and Mercury both being strong now means that your mind is very much just the environment, just the nature of the world now. The nature of the cosmic energy is helping you to connect your limited mind with the higher consciousness and the bigger picture, which is Jupiter. And great teachings will be revealed. And when great teachings show up for you, like astrology, and a great teacher or guru who you want to study with, Jupiter in Sagittarius, which is there for a couple more months, will compel you to want to really take it to the next level. So there's a lot in your favor right now for even learning astrology properly. And again, what I talked about earlier, this group of classes that I talked about, this is free. You don't, if this is when you go here, when you go to this website, I'll just put it there again, but when you go here, it's 4.5 hours of classes for free. You don't have to do anything. And I do this because I want people to learn. I want people to understand how this works. So I teach free classes all the time. This is one of the best programs that I have. Again, 4.5 hours of classes for free, and see if certification is for you. And again, it doesn't mean that certification means that you're even going to be an astrologer. Most people get the certification because they want to actually learn this correctly. That's the first reason to do it. Not because you're going to be a professional astrologer, although many have after studying with me. But the main reason is to do it the same reason I did it, because I wanted to know. I wanted to learn. I wanted to know it. That's the reason. And you should want to know this, whether you do it professionally or not, because it's only to your benefit. It's only to your benefit to understand astrology. Like Parashara says at the beginning of Parashara Horasastra, he who doesn't have a knowledge of Jyotish is like someone being blind. And it's literally that. That's why Jyotish is the science of light. It's literally the science of light, which shows literally light, so that you can see who you are and what all this is about. That's the reason to study astrology, not so that you can make a lot of money or do some kind of thing. Think of all the things we study that we never get any benefit from, really. We just have to learn it for work or this or that, and we might get a little benefit, but it's not like something that connects us to the truth, to the source of wisdom itself. And by the way, the source of wisdom itself is you. That is also you. It's not separate. So like I said at the beginning, a few minutes ago, when you're studying the truth of astrology, you're studying the truth of you. It's your truth. You don't know it's your truth because you're stuck in your ego. So even something like astrology, which is the highest thing you can learn, is all about your ego, often. It's not your fault. It's because that's what you've been told that it is. But even something like astrology, which can give you all the answers, winds up revolving around your chart, your limited nature. So again, it's something that elevates you when you study it, because you're connecting with the specific energies. And right now, with these planets being this way, Mercury and Virgo, very much about wanting all the details to be straight. Jupiter connecting those details to the highest lesson. Saturn, the capacity to concentrate and work hard. Very important when Saturn is in Capricorn, which he'll be there for a couple years. It's a great time to concentrate. And by the way, it's not just a great time to do it in general. You are also being challenged now to do this, which means you're looking around in your life right now with Mercury and Virgo and saying, what's it all mean? That's why I said you got to be careful spinning out on conspiracy theories and stuff, because Mercury and Virgo is trying to get you to come up with an answer. And you're going to come up with something. It's just probably not going to be very good unless you understand this stuff. And Jupiter is saying, and yeah, what's the bigger picture? What I want to believe, I want to have something to believe in. So we're looking for some belief right now. This is what the planets do. They bring their energy when they're powerful. Saturn is saying, I want to concentrate on something and work hard and be committed to something. I'm tired of being childish and immature, which is the negative quality of Saturn. And I'm ready to be mature and focused and concentrate on something serious. And again, what it also means that if you're not doing that, you're going to feel the pain of that. Or you're going to be concentrating on something, it's just probably not going to be worthwhile. And then we also have Mars up there in Aries. He just turned retrograde, but he's still in Aries, having the courage to assert our individuality and say, yes, I can do this. I'm strong enough to do this. I'm strong enough to do this. I'm strong enough to take a chance. I'm not worried that I'm going to take a chance on something and then it's not going to work and I'm going to feel bad and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm ready to take on challenges. I'm ready to try something and I'm enthusiastic about what the future holds. So again, this is what the planets do. They bring the energy, and especially when there's this many of them that are so strong, and they're going to be for a while, it doesn't happen all the time. Now's a great opportunity. And again, you're either going to be using it to your highest, or it's going to be pushing you in a direction, and it's just going to be filtered through your ego. And again, you wind up taking on challenges which are just like arguing with people, or again, fighting with people about their opinions, politics, or whatever stupid thing we fight about. Fighting about that instead of, again, fighting and being fired up about the truth. You're fired up about something in the world that doesn't mean anything in the end. Saturn, you're committed to something. You're thinking that this is something that's important. Jupiter, some big thing you believe in, or some politician or some other thing that you think is giving you hope and purpose and meaning, and it's not. Think of all the times you thought something was important and full of hope and meaning and it wasn't. Again, when the planets are in high dignity like they are now, they're really delivering the truth. You can really see it now. So this is why I encourage people to get those free classes for sure and just listen. But aside from that, again, when we start these new cycles, it's 30 days. And then the next new moon, like I said, is also going to be in Virgo, but at the end of Virgo. And then we're going to have a full moon, again, opposite that, opposite this one. The full moon is going to wind up being in Pisces. You see in a couple weeks. This is the midway point in the cycle. The midway point in the cycle that starts when Sun and Moon come together is the new moon. Then opposite that is the full moon, and that's when we harmonize our energy together. Debbie Carell said, can't wait to register. Can't wait to have you, Debbie. I'm going to be opening up the certification in a few days, so can't wait to get you in there as well. And so, again, a lot of people here are said some very nice things so far, and some interesting things. Lakshmi said the organization attracted me to Krishna, and very much about all kinds of devotion and bhakti are very important as well now. Because again, underneath it all, Virgo, it's like that devotion of the young girl as well. Think of how devoted they are to their friends, to their family. They love their mother, their father, their dolls they're playing with, the little tea parties they're setting up. Again, I know it's cliche, but whatever it might be. Look at the purity of heart in young girls is just breathtaking. It takes your breath away, right? And that purity of heart is still inside of us. It's called child Rashi. Because underneath it all, we're also a child in many ways. Not in a bad way, in a good way. The innocent mind, that innocence of the child, is the part of us that is the most appealing to God as well. Because God sees that innocence and fills the gap for us. So I'll leave it at that.